Okay, everyone, again, this is the Accessible Text Request Service 101 webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and we will then share a link to the recording with you all afterward, and also the slides for today. Also, then this webinar will also be posted to our YouTube channel, and we've actually got a playlist of all of our 101 sessions that we've been doing over the past few weeks. So check those out. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Please make sure that your video is turned off and your microphone today during this session, and we're only going to have the speakers with camera and microphone on. And then please use the chat window if you have any questions, and we'll be reading those aloud and answering them during the program. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Jessica to get us started.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you. So yes, welcome everyone. I was looking through our attendee list today, and it appears that we have representation from every time zone in the United States, as well as London. So it is good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Also today, I'm imagining that I'm speaking to both regular users of the Accessible Text Request Service, as well as new users. It appears, just based on who said they would be coming today, that the majority of those in attendance are actually from member schools and libraries who are not yet using the service. So I think everybody should find some tips and information today, and certainly feel free to jump in the chat window with any questions that you have, whether you are new or returning. So we are going to talk a bit about what exactly the Accessible Text Request Service is, how to register for that, how to set it up on your campus, and also talk a bit about other accessibility features and projects that we have underway at HathiTrust. And as mentioned, we have left time at the end for questions, but as we go along today, you're welcome to type them in the chat window at any time. So to kick things off, we do have a quick poll. As I said, we have got people coming from institutions that we've been working with for a dozen years, as well as brand new members. So we wanted to get a sense of what you're really hoping to get out of the session today. So we may have a chance to emphasize certain things that you're interested in. So if you could take a second and jump here in the poll that Melissa has put up for us, we'll keep an eye on that as we go along. I'll give it a few minutes. I think, oh, people are great. Jumping right in. People want to hear about everything. So excellent. I think that we should be able to cover most of what you've indicated here. Can't wait to hear what some of the other questions are. And I think if I move along to the next slide, correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, people will still be able to answer the poll.
Yep, the poll will stay live until I end it.
Okay. But generally speaking, it looks like everyone is interested in hearing more about registering for the service, how actually to use it to access files, considering what kinds of troubles or obstacles you might run into when using the service, and then some other questions that have popped in your mind that we can get to along the way. So I do think that with that, I'm going to move on ahead. I want to say too, something to really look forward to for those of you who are wondering how the service actually works is that we will have a demonstration of the service in a couple minutes. So what is Accessible Text Request Service? I want to say that from the very beginning of HathiTrust, so from the draft of our bylaws in 2008, we've been committed not only to the preservation of items in the digital library, but also their access. So access is something that we think of in terms of copyright. It's something that we consider in terms of what people are able to download, what people are able to view, what ways they're able to use the text. But it also, from the very beginning, was a commitment to providing every item in the corpus wherever lawfully possible, particularly to patrons who have print disabilities. So this has been something that we've been working on along with all of you, our members, from day one, and we continue to do so today. And you'll hear more about all the ways that we're doing that. Got some poll questions and answers still coming in, So by definition, the Accessible Text Request Service is a service that provides eligible patrons access to any item in the HathiTrust corpus, regardless of copyright status. So as you're probably aware, items that are held in copyright in HathiTrust generally are available for full text search or research through the HathiTrust Research Center, but they're not available to read in full text in the browser because of copyright law. So there are a few exceptions to that, one of which is the Emergency Temporary Access Service, which we are providing most of you over the past 6 months for a fair use provision, but also under section, I think it's 121, I can't see it because the poll is still up on my screen, but I believe it's section 121 of the Copyright Act, as well as the Chafee Amendment and the Marrakesh Treaty. So for all of these reasons, we are able to provide access to items in the corpus, even though they are in copyright. So when an authorized user from a member library accesses a title, what they get access to is a PDF that they can then either transfer into another format or use directly with some form of assistive technology. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you may have known this service as the Disability Proxy Service. And that is something that we changed in 2019 to make it sound a little bit more like what it is, the Accessible Text Request Service. Melissa, if you wouldn't mind closing the poll, I may be able to grab a few more.
I did. The poll is closed.
Okay, I guess I can close it on my screen. Bam. I hope you couldn't see that all along the way.
No, we couldn't.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so eligibility for the Accessible Text Request Service is something we consider in 2 different ways. So the service itself is available to member libraries only. So this is one of the benefits of your membership. It is not something that we are currently offering to patrons that are not affiliated with a member library. And then from the patron perspective, we don't determine the eligibility of patrons to access titles in this way. The eligibility component is something that we leave to you and your own local procedures and regular established practices. So we will open this up to any member, but it's up to you on your campus and oftentimes working with your Office for Students with Disabilities to determine actual eligibility. Something to think about though, and it's something you may already be working on regularly on your own campus, is that print disability is not just a visual impairment. It may be the first thing that comes to people's minds in terms of low vision or blindness, but it's really any type of impairment that prohibits somebody from accessing and using a physical book. So this could be learning disability, it could be a physical impairment, but certainly this service and access to these titles are intended to meet the broad needs of individuals with print disabilities. Terms of use is something very important to this service. Because of the unique access to titles that are in copyright, we do ask that our patrons and the members that work with patrons really take the copyright protection seriously. So we provide a couple kind of safe measures to help you do that. We've got a cover sheet that explains all the details about copyright protections, and we expect that that is something that you will pass on to patrons and that they will take seriously too. Melissa will talk a bit more later about what we do in kind of the administrative end to help ensure that we are able to lawfully provide these titles. Certainly the service is provided because of an individual's status as somebody who has a print disability. So that's why we can do it. So no fraud. We've got lots of services to protect, and we do then keep it sort of close to your campus in terms of managing any misuse of the service. Again, HathiTrust, we're not going to interfere in that, but we would ask you to be kind of the first line there in case somebody reports misuse or you observe it yourself. Something we wanted to clarify right up front is that the accessible text request service is intended to serve patrons with print disabilities. The emergency temporary access service is not intended to serve those patrons, and a few reasons why we want to make this distinction. So, as most of you know, the emergency temporary access service permits access to titles in the digital library when a print title is also available on your shelf. So that is specific to this pandemic emergency. The service is temporary. We hope that sometime it will not be needed, but it's not intended to be the means by which you serve your patrons with print disabilities. They have access to more titles when you're using ATRS because you can have access to any title in the corpus, all 17.4 million items. So there's the note here. You will see if you're in the ETAS view, you'll see these copyrighted titles as temporary access. You'll see them as limited view or search only if you're not using ETAS. But we'll talk a bit more about what it actually looks like in the ATRS view in a few minutes. But just a note that there is a difference, and we encourage you to register and use ATRS when you're serving your patrons with print disabilities. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Melissa to hear more about the service and how you can register.
Thanks, Jessica. Okay, everyone, I'm going to talk about how to become a provider for this service. So you can go to next slide. So how to request. Couple things that you should do on your campus to set up before you request the service. You want to identify who on your campus you want to be authorized to use the service. We allow up to 3 contacts from each member library. A lot of times members will have, for example, one contact at the library and another contact at their disability or accessibility services office. That works great, but any combination thereof. Some people only have their contacts in their accessibility services office and not in the library, but that's completely up to you to decide how you want to do that. You also need to have an approver. So the form needs to be signed by both the authorized contact and an approver. And we like that approver to be at director or AUL level or above for that, because of, again, the level of access. This is the highest level of access that we offer. It is, you have access to everything in our corpus if you are registered for the accessible text request service. So for that reason also, we ask for tighter security on your access. So we like you to be either, if your campus is currently using multi-factor or 2-factor authentication, please sign up for that if you're not already. And then we just have you sign a form that you're using that for extra security. Or if you don't have 2-factor or multi-factor authentication on your campus, then we ask that you set up a static non-natted IP address, and you'll have to work with your campus IT department to get that set up. A lot of times campus IT departments really are reluctant to set those up, but it's really important to us that we have tight controls around access. Another thing just to mention, from Beth's question, when you sign up the contacts, we do need individuals to sign up. Don't provide a generic group email address because we do register individuals. However, on the form, there is a place where you can put a public email address, and that's where if you want to provide us with a group email address for your patrons to contact if they want to request this service, and we'll put that on our website. And feel free to publish that on your website as well. So again, once you've got that figured out, just complete the registration form, and then of course, we'll get you registered. And then we want you to promote the service on your website. And the service expires annually. So your approver will need to reapprove you for the service. If, for example, your contact on your campus leaves or goes to another position and they aren't able to serve as the contact for this service, then in order to designate a new person, we just need you to submit a new form to feedback and we will register them with access. And then there's our website right there. And again, we're going to share the slides later. So now we're going to take a little bit of a look at what accessible text request service access looks like. So again, when someone requests this service, you want to verify the requester's eligibility. Again, we don't have any guidelines of how to do that. You just want to follow your normal campus procedures. And then you want to log into HathiTrust. Then there's a little extra step where you're going to click on member to choose your member role and access the book and download it. And so I'm going to do a little demonstration of that right now. So I'm going to share my screen. Here. Alrighty, so you should all be seeing my screen now. I am on the HathiTrust homepage. Y'all seeing the HathiTrust homepage here?
Yes, we are, Melissa.
Great, thanks. And I am gonna log in. I'm choosing University of Michigan. Okay, I'm logged in. Now, as you can see, normally when you have access, you will see this member here. But right now, see, because I'm registered as an accessible text request service provider, I've got that little lightning bolt on the member and it's a toggle switch. So I'm gonna click that and then here comes choose a role. So if I'm just using HathiTrust for myself, for my own, or to help patrons who are not print disabled, I just keep it on regular member, and that's like regular member access. But now if I'm using it for the accessible text request service, I want to click this button here and hit submit. And now as you can see, the skin has changed to show that I am logged in as an accessible text request service provider. And now I am going to search for a book. And I'm going to use this book called Diversity Across the Curriculum, A Guide to Faculty in Higher Education. So I'm going to do that search. And this book is normally in copyright. But as you can see, because I am logged in as an accessible text request service provider, it's showing up as full view for me. So I'm going to pull that book up. As you can see, I get a little warning here that this work is in copyright. It's protected by copyright law. So I only have access because of the accessible text request service. Now you can either download the whole book and you would download it as a PDF, or you can just download certain pages, which I'm going to do today for sake, in case your patron might only need certain pages. So then I'm going to select the pages that I want to download. So I'm going to that page, and I'm going to go back to my thumbnail view. I don't know why it's not working. Download pages. Okay. There we go. And I'm going to just download 3 pages. We'll say that. 3 pages and then download. Okay, so now It's going to set up to download. I should remind you all that we don't store PDFs of our books on our website, so the system builds a custom PDF for you. Now it's ready, so I'm going to download it here. All right, now I'm going to, oops, pull that up for you. Kevin. There we go. And there is my PDF. And as you can see, there's a cover sheet on here showing that it is protected by copyright law. We ask that you keep the cover sheet on the with the work when you distribute that to your patron. And that is how it works. So, and again, we'll be taking questions later. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can go back to the presentation. All right, Jessica, I think you have to reshare your screen. I'm going to log out here.
Okay, I think it's over to me now to talk a little bit about some of the accessibility features that we've implemented in the HathiTrust digital library platform, and to talk about some of the other accessibility projects that we are currently involved in. And once again, I am Angelina Zaytsev. I am the User Services Librarian at HathiTrust. Next slide, please. So a few notes about the accessibility of the HathiTrust platform. We have been working in the past couple of years to ensure that our digital library platform meets some of the main accessibility guidelines. So we especially have worked to ensure that we meet WCAG 2.1 at levels A and AA. And we also meet the United States revised Section 508 standards. And also, because our platform is used by users all around the world, we've also checked our platform against the European Union accessibility guidelines. So you can find out more about our process for ensuring the accessibility of our platform and review our voluntary product accessibility template on our website. And when you get these slides, you'll be able to click that link there to see that information. So one thing that is important to keep in mind when you're using the HathiTrust platform and accessing our books is that the work that we've done to ensure the accessibility of our platform has been focused on the website and the platform. Our books are primarily produced by the scanning of print books, and so they have many of the problems that you are familiar with, such as messy OCR. Consequently, when you download a file from HathiTrust, you may need to perform your own remediation activities against the file in order to improve the copy. So you can also, however, notify us if a book has significant quality problems or if the OCR is just completely unusable. You can request a correction to the book by clicking the feedback link that appears in the header and the footer of every page on our website. And when you submit that request, that'll go to our user support team and they'll see what they can do to improve the quality. Next slide, please. We've implemented a number of accessibility features on our website for your users that use accessibility technology. One of those features are skip links that appear at the top of web pages for users that use keyboards to navigate our website. For example, if a user performs a search in our digital library, there are skip links that appear at the top of the search results page that allow them to skip the search facets, for example, and go directly to the search results so they can get to their search results more quickly. We also have implemented customized access keys that allow you to interact with a book using your keyboard. And we provide 2 different modes on our website for accessing the OCR associated with a book. And you can read more about these accessibility features and refer your users to them on our website at this URL listed here. Next slide, please. So this fall, we are also working to provide more download formats for books in the HathiTrust Digital Library. Currently, when you download a book from HathiTrust, you only have the option to download it as a PDF, which contains the image files that a book is scanned as well as embedded OCR. But in the fall, you and your users will be able to download HathiTrust books in a few different formats, such as EPUB, plain text files, and also multiple image files. It's important to keep in mind that the text-derived formats, such as EPUB and plain text files, are created from the OCR. So you may, again, run into messy OCR issues. Next slide, please. We're also working with a number of organizations on a couple of collaborative projects. The Federating Repositories of Accessible Materials for Higher Education, or the FRAME grant, which is run by the University of Virginia and funded by the Mellon Foundation. Through that project, we are working together with Internet Archive and Bookshare to build a single interface so that you and other disability services staff can search across these 3 collections in one location. Also, if you find that you are remediating files that you have downloaded from these 3 collections, or creating your own scans and converting them into accessible formats for your users, you can upload those files to this interface so that other campuses can use those files to serve their users. And we're really hoping to minimize the duplication of effort that's happening across campuses and across our 3 repositories. In addition, we've been working with the National Federation of the Blind for several years to figure out how to provide direct access to NFB members to the HathiTrust copyrighted collection. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Angelina. So I'm going to talk a bit more about how ATRS and your library can really reach the individuals that you need to reach on your campus. Couple of recommendations. Once you have the service set up, we do recommend that you look to HathiTrust first. When you are serving a patron's needs, when they come to you and they need a title remediated for a print disability, we have heard from several members so far that because of the quantity of items available in HathiTrust and the quality of them, there is usually a good chance that what you're looking for is going to be in HathiTrust versus another type of commercial provider. So that is a backed up plug for starting with HathiTrust when you're looking for one of these titles. As Melissa mentioned, including HathiTrust in your online documentation about accessibility services is important, and whether that is on your library website or the Students for Disabilities materials that are available, or both, letting people know that the titles that they may be finding in HathiTrust would be available to them if they are eligible for that would be an important step to take. And we've got a couple samples here in a minute or two. One thing to consider to manage the requests is using a form. There are a number of different workflows that our members have come up with. This is something that popped up quite frequently as one way to manage incoming requests. There are a lot of examples of our HathiTrust members promoting the accessibility service to their eligible users. So we've linked to a couple here. We will send these slides out so you have access to them. But as we were doing some of this investigation, we realized just how different the workflows are for our different members. So I've elected to call one out here from the University of Wisconsin. So this is a sample of how what they call digital delivery works on their campus. So this is where the student is authorized by the Office for Students with Disabilities, and then the Office for Students with Disabilities works with the library to coordinate the access to these texts. So the interlibrary loan staff, 1, 2, or 3 contacts there, they are the ones who have access to ATRS. So they are the ones who receive the elevated access that Melissa was talking about. And then the student is able to request a title through ILL. The way it works here at the University of Wisconsin is they are able to select delivery for print disability for the students. And then the staff member in ILL is able to access that title and deliver that to the student in the PDF format. So as you can see, it is often the case that there is a partnership between the library and the Office for Students with Disabilities. This is not always the case. There are member libraries who have the exclusive management of the service, but we know that it can be challenging for some communications to happen across these two areas, but we have seen that there's some great success when there is that partnership on a campus. So this is a service that our members value quite a bit. It is something that we are offering exclusively to members at this time. And in doing so, we've heard of many different ways that this service allows libraries to serve these patrons better than they could before, or that they could in other ways. So having access to these items allows librarians to serve these patrons more quickly, more efficiently, and that certainly is something that is good for the overall image of the library. Certainly when a community can depend on the library to serve all patrons, the value of your library is much more clear to everyone on your campus. One particular anecdote that stood out to me from NYU was this story from their diversity coordinator, or excuse me, their accessibility librarian there, where a graduate student was coming back to school after some time, had dyslexia, and was a little bit nervous to begin those studies again. And she was able to work with the Accessible Text Request Service to provide these texts and actually just ease some of that transition for the student. So, these are challenging circumstances for your patrons who have print disabilities, and being able to serve that population as well as the other patrons in your community is certainly a valuable service, and that shows across your entire campus. So we know that this is going well for the most part for all of the members that are currently using the service. And as I mentioned before, there are at least 20 some members on this call who have not yet registered for the service. So we are here to answer your questions, help you get started, and hopefully we can get everybody on board serving all of these patrons with the service. So we will be sending these resources out to you, but for now, we are here and we're ready for your questions.
Alrighty, I'm going to start with this first one from Susan Kelmer, asking about if you are not a librarian and you work for your disability services office, who should be your approver if you want to register as the provider for your campus? And the answer is that the approver should be at whoever is your director level or above for your department. So for example, if you are working for your disability services office and you're not working for the library, then the director of the disability services office should be the approver for the service. It doesn't need to be somebody at the library. In fact, we have some campuses where they have an authorized user, an authorized service provider, and they on the disability services office, they have the director of the disability services office as that person's approver. And then they also have 1 or 2 people at the library registered, and then the library director or AUL is their approver. And so that's completely fine. We don't need the same approver for every person that is registered for the service. We again just ask that it's somebody at director level or above on your campus. Does the approver need to approve each individual user who can access materials? Yes. If you want to register more than one person on your campus and the same person is going to be the approver, just email feedback. I actually have an alternate form that I can send with multiple lines so that each individual can sign the form, and then the approver will only have to sign it once. So again, if you're having any trouble, if you are currently registered for the service and you log in and you don't see that lightning bolt, please email feedback and we will troubleshoot with you about what the problem is and help you get it figured out. It's often something to do if you're registered with a static IP and you're working from home. It can be that, but it could be other reasons too, and we'll help you figure that out. We have a question about whether you need confirmation from your Disability Resource Center. If a patron requests access, you know, we rely on our members to work out their own workflows for how they obtain those approvals or how they verify those requests. So you would just want to maybe work with your Disability Services office and figure out what workflow would work best for you or would be best for your campus. Is the text of the copyright cover sheet available on the website? You know, I don't think it is. Is it, Angelina? I'm not aware of that it's that.
It isn't. I think the most important piece to share with your users is the terms of use, which are posted on our website, or they're included in the registration form, actually. So as long as those terms of use are included within whatever files that you're sharing with your users, I think that's the most important piece.
We've got another question. May the library pull the PDF from HathiTrust and then email the file to the university's Office of Student Disabilities so that they convey the PDF to the end user? Again, I think that whatever workflow that you have with your campus you want to use, you might want to consider having somebody at the Office of Student Disabilities register as a user to kind of take out that middle step, but that's up to you, and we want you to whatever works best for your campus. Oh, the multi-factor when logging in. And I didn't, how my multi-factor is set up, if I log in and use multi-factor once, it doesn't make me do it every time. I would have to do it after so many hours or the next day. So I had already logged in previously and used my multi-factor. So when I logged in on the demo, I didn't need to do it again. But normally when you log in, if you use multi-factor, it will ask you, it will pull you to your login page, and then it'll ask you for the multi-factor. It's just a different screen usually on your phone, or you can set it up if you don't have a cell phone, which most people do now, but you can have it set up to give you a call on an office phone or depending on how it's set up on your campus. Yes, I do. I meant to mention that before. I do offer the approval form via Adobe Sign. So if it's easier for you, especially now, well, where so many people are working from home and you can't just walk down to your supervisor's office to get the form signed, again, email feedback and say you prefer to receive the form digitally, and I can send that through Adobe Sign.
So I see that Susan has posted a comment about the turnover in your department and So that can cause complications with the registration process, since staff are constantly leaving and needing to be re-registered when new staff come on board. Susan, I think this might be a good opportunity to connect with your librarians at the University of Colorado Boulder. There are a few other folks that are attending this webinar who are in the library at University of Colorado, and there might be an opportunity there to set up a shared workflow where someone at the library registers for the access and provides the files for you as you need them. I should also say that the current Dean of Libraries at Colorado, Robert McDonald, has previously worked closely with us at HathiTrust because he was one of the HathiTrust Research Center directors. So he, I know, will be eager to support and approve this kind of service.
Can the dedicated contacts be notified when it's time to renew the service? Yes, we just, for our renewals this year, we revamped how that is done. So both the designated contact and the authorized representative receive notification that when it's time to renew, and that time is always, it's June 30th or July 1st right now is how it's set up. Pretty much everybody is set up to expire at that time. So it's one big batch renewal we do. And so around that time, everybody will get contacts, and that has worked really well, that the designated contact, then if your approver has left or you need somebody else, then you can let us know that we need to change your approver and we can get that changed. So absolutely. Okay. Any more questions? Did I miss any, Angelina?
Not that I've seen. So I think if there are any other questions that anyone wants to post in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, well, if, we will stay on for a few more minutes. I am going to stop the recording though, but feel free if you have any more questions. We're going to stay on, but otherwise, thanks a lot for coming today, and we hope this was informative for you, and we'll be sending out again a link to the recording and the slides very soon.
Thanks, everyone.